Hey, what is going on, everybody out there? This is Jakejames Lugo. Welcome to the channel and welcome to a brand new episode of A Definitive Discussion Rebooted. As always, I bring on phenomenal individuals from all over the place around the internet, gaming stuff, for gaming industry, YouTube, and all these different places, and we deep dive into a specific topic or something interesting for you guys to kind of get a kick out of. But anyway, hopefully you guys have been enjoying all the episodes. I had a real big episode last time. Let me know if you guys really enjoyed that in the comments section down below. But today, I got another fun episode. I actually have Pam, who runs the YouTube channel Cannot Be Contained, as my guest on the show today. Pam, what's good? We finally recently just connected, so how's it going overall?
Pretty good. It's good to be here. Sort of unexpected podcast appearance.
It's like a random encounter. It just comes out of nowhere. It's just like, boom, it happens or whatnot. But either way, the reason why I wanted to have you on the show is because you recently did a video on your YouTube channel about age gating. And I thought that it was a real good, interesting, and nuanced discussion and topic that I wanted to bounce off from, you know, with somebody that I felt like I could really bounce off with, because I haven't done an episode about this type of stuff or really talked about it. So for anybody, obviously, who didn't see the video now, and again, it'll be linked in the description box below for you guys, you know, give a little bit of a summary of what you were really talking about, you know, in your own words, I feel like.
Sure. It's something I run into in gaming, and I'm sure it takes place in other sort of areas as well. But it's kind of twofold. One is feeling like people who are younger don't like have a place or about retro video games, which is mostly what I focus on. Yeah. So there's like wanting to keep people away because they weren't there when it came out or something like that. Just like not really letting them into the hobby rather than like wanting to share something that brings you joy with someone else. And then the second part of it is if someone expresses an opinion that is critical of, you know, something that you love from your childhood. And it's kind of like a way to shut them down. Like, oh, well, you're too young. You didn't grow up with it. You don't understand. Therefore, your opinion is wrong.
Yeah, I could agree with a lot of that. And I feel like most of the time it's a defense mechanism because, you know, when somebody gives an opinion, most of the time, a lot of people, especially on the internet and social media, people take it like they're talking shit about their favorite thing. And that's just like kind of like a defense mechanism to kind of deflect or at least shoot down their opinion about whether it's a retro game or anything of the sort. It doesn't even have to be applied to gaming. This could be applied to literally anything, like any sort of fandom or nerdom or anything that's out there, which is crazy. And again, I appreciate like topics like this when they're talked about because I feel like it's not explored enough, or at least in a more kind of like, you know, sophisticated and interesting way, because usually it's just one opinion or the other out there whenever you see people talking about it. Do you find that some people that do the dog no, I'm keeping that in there, it's funny, but do you feel like sometimes that people, when they do get into topics like this, it's a little bit much more one-sided?
I mean, like when I brought it up in my video, like 98% of the comments were sort of agreeing with me. So I guess they were kind of one-sided in a positive way. But occasionally, you know, sometimes there's people who, even if you sort of lay it out in a way that you think is understandable, they're still going to disagree with you and think, no, people who are younger don't understand, and they'll just sort of stick to their guns on that.
Yeah, now I'm also curious to know, at least from your perspective, is there like a specific generation of gaming or just gamers or like a certain console era that's a little bit more prevalent? Because as for me, again, I'm about 30 years old. I'm going to be 31 soon. I'm a product of the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo days, like during those types of console wars. And I see a little bit of that, you know, within that generation of games that were released all the way up through like the PlayStation and stuff. But do you even find that maybe a little bit older or even a little bit younger with some of the console generations? Like, I find that a little weird, if at all, you know, if that's applicable to like, you know, the PlayStation 2 or PlayStation 3 generation of gamers.
It's hard to say. I cover, or the places where I see this most is in the sort of NES era of things, which is, it's actually funny because that is the era of games that I grew up with. So when I get comments like, oh, well, you just don't like this because you're too young, it's hilarious because I am not. I am old.
Wow.
But I see it definitely in this kind of area. There are other creators who are actually much younger than me who I've seen people comment on their age and why are you talking about these games if you're too young? But I've also definitely heard stories about people who are a little bit younger than me being very defensive about like the N64 and PS1 era of games.
Yeah. So another thing that I'm also curious about, because again, I experience a little bit of that myself, or at least I see people act that way on social media, or again, just in person at like various events and stuff. But I'm also curious to know, does that also come from industry folk as well? Like one side or the other, whether it's, being very defensive or being like very like open to stuff like that. Because, again, someone that's in the industry, I don't really find a lot of that, or at least the conversations aren't always about stuff like that. I find that to be more prevalent in the YouTuber space or the content creator space, where it's like you have the luxury of more time or more of the ability to look at like these other generations of games as opposed to what's coming out brand new.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely deal with more other YouTubers and commenters than I do developers, but I do think it's more of a fan thing. Like it's less about being defensive about something that you created, years ago, and it's more about people who like this thing that feel the need to defend it against sort of newcomers or anyone who's talking poorly about it.
Now, do you find there, with YouTubers, again, I'm only using YouTubers as an example, do you find them to be more defensive about like shutting out people from joining up on that fandom as far as like, not allowing them to really appreciate or really understand like why some of these like older games are so special? Or is it more that they're a little bit more welcoming and it's usually the fandom side of things, like the random Twitter peeps that are on social media out there acting like that? Because I've seen both sides of the equations. Like I've seen a couple creators, whether it's larger or medium-sized channels, act like that. And I always question myself, is like, why be that way? Because, not only that's part of your audience, or at least part of the audience that's like watching your stuff, but also I don't understand why is it that anybody would want to stop more people from checking out certain games.
Exactly. Yeah. I haven't seen it too much with other YouTubers, although if I did see that, I would unfollow them quite quickly.
Put them in check.
Yeah, I don't need that negativity in my life. But yeah, it is mostly from, on Twitter, on YouTube, sort of the people responding to your opinions about a game than it is other YouTubers.
Now, you mentioned the comments earlier, like on your most recent video, and obviously in most of your other videos that you put out there. That's usually a thing that happens in the comments section, but is that more prevalent there? Is it more prevalent on like other platforms, like other forms of social media, like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and stuff? Like, I mean, when you're really looking at it, I mean, I would assume like when you're looking at the responses to like your videos and stuff, you would mostly look at the YouTube comment section, correct?
That's right.
So
yeah.
Is it a little bit more there, or do you still also find it really prevalent on just social media?
Mostly on YouTube is where I'd see it, but I would also see hundreds more opinions on the YouTube comments than I would anywhere else. So
yeah, like to me, again, I would think like obviously because the platforms like Twitter, Facebook, etc. are just so big, and because there's a wider pool of people, I figured like it would be a little bit more prevalent there, as you're interacting with your fans and stuff. But I figured I ask anyway. So the other thing I want to ask also, which I think is very important that we should explore, and I think nobody's really explored it, in a mature sense, at least from the convos I've seen. I think a lot of the age gating also comes alongside a lot of the gender discussions that happen here and there. I think that there's a lot of scumbag people on the internet for one reason or another, and they're usually acting that way towards obviously a lot of female gamers, a lot of women in gaming that are getting into the medium and stuff. But I even also see that on the flip side here and there, not so much though on that side. Do you think also now these days, and again, we're talking like 2019 now at this point, do you think that is a little bit more also alongside of a gender issue as opposed to just being like a young and old type of issue?
Yeah, I think so. I think that people are going to always gatekeep a little bit harder when it comes to women as opposed to men. I've definitely gotten both kinds of comments, either age related or gender related. I mean, it's not something that only women experience. Course, like yeah. there's men who have gotten comments about being too young to talk about a game as well. But yeah, I do feel like when people are very defensive and very possessive about something that they like, they'll sort of go after any perceived difference that you have as compared to them.
Yeah. I would agree with that. And even though I don't necessarily think this is the case, do you think, oh, well, technically I kind of do, because again, it's like some of the stuff you see on social media, could get really crazy, especially at Twitter and Facebook. But do you think also that a lot of those age gators are the people that are just want to age gate so hard that they're more quickly they're more quick to knee jerk reaction to someone that is a female gamer, like exploring whatever retro games that she's exploring, or is it more that just the fact that it's that specific game? Like, again, that's really, again, we kind of answered that already, but I feel like, just for clarification for everybody, I ask.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both. I think a lot of people would be more likely to throw that argument at a woman.
Yeah, I think so now. Again, more these days. And a lot of the conversation really comes up, and again, in relation to a lot of other things. But if we're just sticking to just age gating, I would think obviously that side of the species probably deals with that a little bit more. It sounds a little messed up to say that, but it is kind of true. Again, just anybody that's listening to this now, just go look on any social media and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So the other thing I think we should also address too is how do we fix it? Like, how do we make it better? Like, what, not necessarily the solution, but what is like something that each of us can really do to make things better? Like for me, I think it's lead by example, for a lot of content creators out there, not just us here on this show, but a lot of other people out there. But what is it from your perspective?
Yeah, I think it's just fostering a positive environment. If you're a creator and, you've got younger people in your comments disagreeing with you or commenting with you, just engage them in a positive, respectful way. If they disagree with you, like, that's fine. They can have different tastes and things that they're looking for in games than you are. Just being very welcoming of everyone so that they feel like they do have a place in the community, so that even when there are those people who want to gatekeep based on age, like they're much easier to ignore if you know that they're in the minority.
I agree. I definitely could agree with that. Now, I just thought of this now, and I should have asked it earlier. When it comes to age gating, or just like with stuff that people would consider age gating or being that type of way, is it more usually on the software side of things, or is it more towards hardware? Like, and what I mean by this perfect example is like people would be much more quicker to age gate for defending a certain type of game or a certain type of genre, as opposed to defending a certain type of hardware, a certain type of console or platform for that matter. Like, which one, and again, from your eyes and your perspective, do you usually see more of? Because I see a mix, but I would mostly say that people are more likely to age gate, to defend a certain game than they are a platform.
I think it's both. I mean, I see it more in games just because that's what I focus on more than hardware, but I definitely think like if there's a certain, not even a particular platform or a console, but a kind of style. So like, when the PS1 and N64 days, when we first started getting like 3D polygons, and there was a lot of like tank controls and things that maybe aren't as appealing to people now, then you can get sort of that kind of gating. If you sort of write off a game because it's hard to get past the graphics or it's hard to get past the controls, then it can also come into play there, which isn't, again, not just about specific games, but about sort of whole yeah.
I can understand that, but I think even alongside that, or at least to follow up with that, do you think it's more, again, if we're talking about age gating here with all that type of stuff, is it more of a refusal to accept another perspective or a fresher perspective, or the fear of that things are changing with certain stuff, or that people have different mindsets and are looking at things from a different type of critical lens? Like for what you use, for example, that rise of 3D gaming, a lot of that stuff hasn't aged well. And I can understand anybody brand new looking at some of that stuff and be like, oh my God, this looks like ass. Like, I don't know how you guys survived on this, like, back then, and that's a totally understandable, perception from there. But I think, looking at it, in the reactions from people every once in a while, I usually sometimes think of it as that maybe they're just afraid that, like, they're going to be like told something that they just neglected for years, like one of their favorite things that just wasn't all that great. And it's just coming from another perspective.
Yeah, I think it's sort of about being defensive and taking it a little too personally. Like, you see it with anything, like, anything about criticizing a game, whether it's for its gameplay or like its portrayal of women or something. There's that internalization where it's like, well, if they say this game is sexist or it controls badly or it's not fun to play and I like it, that means that I am bad, or like I can't like it anymore, which is silly.
I think also that goes along with it, the idea of being alone, because, not so much that gamers are introverts. I think that stereotype has been shattered long ago. But I think just, with the age of social media and people having their opinions and their stances, looking for those similar stances and opinions to kind of bundle up with, I think that also comes alongside of it as well.
Mm-hmm.
which is
Yeah.
again, which is crazy because again, it's social media, so it is absolutely nuts. So that being said, though, let's kind of wrap this up here because we're going to talk a little bit more about retro gaming on EX mode for you guys, for the Patreons and stuff. But tell me a little bit about in your own way, like what you've been doing to kind of like, besides what you mentioned before about age gating, what you've been trying to do with your own content to kind of, show people a better way or show people that, there's welcoming of perspectives is actually a good thing. Can gaming really kind of mature to the point, or at least the gaming industry mature to the point where that doesn't become so much of an issue?
I think it can. And again, it's about fostering positive environments and positive communities. I am welcoming of people who disagree with me in a respectful manner. While I will talk shit right back to those who
drop the ban. It's okay. Talk your talk.
Also, I moderate my comment section fairly heavily. So if, two people are getting at it in the comments, I will shut that down pretty quickly. I just don't I almost get more defensive of the people commenting on my videos than I do of personal attacks against myself. You can call me names, but if you start calling the other commenters names or talking down to them, that's when I get angry. But just trying to foster that positive environment. I mean, I'm a part of a number of clubs and social groups that have people of all different ages who all just love video games, whether it's new or old games. So just trying to set that positive example and be welcoming.
I agree. I think that's good. I think stuff like that is pretty dope, especially because, again, using hip hop phrases or hip hop terms, we got to have the old heads, show some of the younger cats, another perspective to allow them to grow. And I think that not only we grow as human beings, as fans, as enthusiasts of this medium, but I think just the industry and just the hobby grows too. Because some of those people, some of them might become game designers or some of them might become game programmers. And that could actually affect certain stuff. Again, understanding different things at different points of time, I think is pretty damn awesome overall. So Pam, thank you so much for joining me on this episode. Again, it's some interesting talk, interesting food for thought, hopefully, for everybody to get out of this. Where can everybody find you right now? You're on the socials? You're out all over the place?
I am. My YouTube channel is called Cannot Be Tamed, and I am on Twitter, where my username is very irrelevant. It's at Jasyla_. That's JASYLA_. I also have a podcast called Media Mavens, which is infrequent at the moment.
Awesome. So there'll be links down below in the description box, so all of you guys can go check it out. Send her some owl hugs, because we like sending owl hugs here to all of our guests that come onto the show, just randomly like that. But thank you again, Pam, for chatting it up with me. Guys, let me know what's good in the comment section down below, and don't forget to leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this one and a whole bunch of other great stuff that I know you guys are going to enjoy. We'll be back again in a bit because me and Pam are going to talk more on EX mode, and we will talk to you guys again real soon. Peace out and stay epic, everybody.